Please read Revelation chapter 13. The pageant from chapter 12 continues, and John sees a beast rising out of the water. There are some fantastic similarities in what John records in Revelation and what Daniel records in the book of Daniel thousands of years earlier. This is significant because Daniel is also given several visions about the last days and the end of the age. Daniel's visions span a much longer period of time, as he is shown things that will happen to his people from Daniel's generation up until the end of the age. So, for example, instead of seeing one beast rising out of the water like John did, Daniel sees four, with the fourth one being the last one. This will make more sense as we continue. Understandably, though, both Daniel and John are greatly disturbed by what they see. Look at the similarities between Revelation 13 and Daniel 7. John sees a beast rising out of the sea with 7 heads and 10 horns. Daniel sees a fourth beast rising out of the sea, and it has 10 horns. John describes the beast as a leopard with feet like a bear and a mouth like a lion. Daniel says this beast is too dreadful to describe. John says the beast was given power, a throne, and great authority from the dragon, Satan. Daniel says this beast is incredibly strong and more brutal than the others. John says the dragon encouraged the beast to speak great blasphemies against God. Daniel says one of the horns of the beast had a bragging mouth and an arrogance against God. John says the dragon gave the beast power to fight against God's people and overcome them. Daniel says the beast will defy God and wear down the saints with persecution, trying to change laws and morals. John says all whose names are not in the Lamb's book of life worship this evil creature. Daniel says the beast will devour the whole world. Daniel is told in his vision that all the beasts he sees, the 1 through 4, represent kingdoms rising out of the sea of humanity. Their horns represent the kings over these kingdoms. For future reference, since the angel is showing Daniel the end times of which John is seeing, it is safe to assume that the same interpretations would apply to the beast in Revelation. The fourth beast is the last world power before, in Daniel's words, the arrival of a man, or so he seemed to be. Brought there on clouds from heaven, he approached the Ancient of Days and was presented to him. He was given the ruling power and glory over all the nations of the world, so that all people of every language must obey him. His power is eternal, it will never end. His government shall never fail. That's Daniel 7, 13, and 14. Now, we don't have to guess. We know who this man is. It's Jesus. We know when he was presented before God and given authority over all the nations of the world. We just read about it in chapter 5. The last kingdom on earth will be an eternal one. Daniel's fourth beast is eventually destroyed and stripped of his power, and the angel tells Daniel that all nations and power under heaven will be given to this man, Jesus, right? Nope, that's not what the angel says. He says all nations and power under heaven will be given to the people of God to rule forever. The people of God, rescued from the horrible consequences of sin on earth, will eventually be back as the ruling power on earth under Christ's command, just as God intended from the beginning. We will not be sitting around sipping milk and honey. Some of us will be ruling future nations on the earth. Now we will discuss the role of the people of God in a later chapter. John sees another creature. This one is coming up out of the earth. We know that this creature represents kingdoms or empires, or all of them do, and their horns represent leaders and presidents. And we also know that whenever we see the sea that they come out of, that represents people. So we can assume that this second creature with only 2 horns coming out of the earth is a smaller leader, perhaps, and only represent a smaller group of people. However, this beast has the same authority as the first beast. How interesting that it looks like an innocent lamb, but has a voice like a dragon. The implication is that it is deceiving. Dragon in sheep's clothing. Its purpose is to encourage worship to the first beast. So let's recap. The dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns represents Satan. He gives power to certain world rulers, beasts with 7 heads and 10 horns, to carry out his agenda, which is ultimately to blaspheme God, make war with the people of God, and to be worshiped. He loves that. A second power, the second beast, independent of the first beast collective, either starts out good and innocent and becomes corrupt, or presents itself as good and was always corrupt. This empire is no better than the others, but he is able to dazzle the masses with his great miraculous superpower. End time prophets say the second beast could be that same influence trying to conquer, possibly a religious organization like Catholicism, who seems to have a reputation of secrecy and financial influence. And by the way, being the only religious organization holding a seat in the United Nations as a member. Now, this second beast could also be big tech companies who perhaps started out wanting to give people a way to communicate globally, but is now censoring, spying, and demanding compliance. Okay, so the second beast endorses the first beast and uses its influence to encourage everyone to accept the mark of the beast. If you don't, then you are unable to be a part of the commerce, not able to buy, to sell anything, and eventually killed for not accepting it. Now, for many years, we looked for a person, someone who would come to power and terrorize everybody into taking the mark of the beast. We expected a fantastical scenario of a leader being killed and then coming back to life, making everyone on earth bow to him or her in worship. Every world leader or president that showed the slightest inconsistency was considered the Antichrist. Now that we're actually living in the midst of the end times, the revelation of John is much clearer. We joke about getting off the grid, how data is being collected on our phones, and Alexa and Siri are listening to our conversations, others tracking our movements and buying habits. The Antichrist may not be some mysterious creature. The Antichrist just may be a bunch of people working for a common evil goal. They don't think it's evil, but it is, to get money and power. Consider that the 7-headed, 10-horned beast is a league of nations, much like the United Nations, whose sole purpose is to have a one-world government. There is a push to take away the autonomy of individual countries and states and cities. And since human beings are at the head of this push, you can be sure that the fight is not for order, but control, as they use deceit and secrecy to carry out their wicked agendas, using deception and lies woven into good causes and social justice. The number of this beast, 666, 6 being the number of men, could literally just be humans trying to be in charge of their own destiny. Self-centered, self-absorbed puppets of Satan. That foolish, prideful, ungrateful angelic being that rebelled against his creator is showing foolish, prideful, ungrateful humankind how to get themselves completely cursed, just like he is. Now, don't get me wrong. There may be a single representative who has given over wholly to Satan and his agenda. Maybe chanting, worshiping devils, drinking blood, and all types of sexual debauchery. We've heard that in the news. He or she may even resemble the Antichrist often portrayed in movies. However, the primary beast of Revelation does not appear to be one evil person, but a combination of all kinds of rebellious, ungodly leaders. If I would take a guess based on the current climate, I would say that the beast includes the elite, the top 1% of the population who think they're cleverly deceiving the masses with their schemes to take over the world. It includes the elected officials who think that they can do whatever they want while distorting the truth with no fear of reprisal. It includes dictators and tyrants who force their own perversions and warped ideas of leadership onto their own people. And it also includes the individuals who are so in love with the world system that they love that and trust that more than they love and trust God. It's those who reject the truth and embrace the lie simply because of its packaging.